So today we're going to talk about the tragic and really complex case of Rosanna Galliano. It's a story about a controlling marriage that just spiraled into horrific violence, and then a family's unbelievable decade-long fight for justice.
Okay, picture this. It's January 16th, 2008. Rosanna Galliano is at a family property, and her cell phone rings. She steps out into the garden to get a better signal, and just seconds later, 4 gunshots rip through the quiet night. And just like that, Rosanna's life was over.
So you have to wonder, right? Who would do this? Was it a robbery that went bad? Just some random act of violence? Well, to figure out who wanted her dead, and more importantly, why, you have to go back. You have to look at the life Rosanna was fighting so hard to escape. The real story here, the roots of this whole tragedy, they started years before that night. It all goes back to her marriage, a relationship that might have looked okay from the outside, but was really just a gilded cage built on fear and total control. And that brings us to our husband, Jose Arce. I mean, just look at the mismatch here from day one. When they met, Jose Arce was 52. He was a wealthy guy with 8 properties, but he also had a pretty dark past, including 4 years spent in a US prison for drug trafficking. And Rosanna? She was only 22, unemployed, quiet, reserved. That 30-year age gap, well, that was just the beginning of the power imbalance. The marriage very quickly turned into a nightmare of abuse. Jose was obsessed with controlling her, constantly jealous. He would literally leave guns out in the open just to intimidate her and her family. Her own brother saw him hit her. Her father once saw this raw scrape on her back, and she admitted it was from Jose dragging her across the asphalt. And to top it all off, he put all their money in his mother Elsa's name, leaving Rosanna with absolutely nothing. No power, no way out. By 2006, Rosanna had had enough. Something inside her just snapped. She decided she had to get herself and her 2 young sons out of there. This part of the story is about her incredibly brave and incredibly dangerous fight to be free. So she started fighting back, step by step. It began in April 2006 when she filed her very first domestic violence report. Then she filed more. She started talking to her sister, Monica, who became her rock. Eventually, she took her 2 boys and moved in with her sister. And by 2007, she'd filed for divorce and even found a new, happy relationship. Each one of these things was a huge act of courage. But for a man like Jose Arce, every one of these steps, well, that was him losing his grip. And he was not going to let that happen. And this wasn't just in her head. The threat was very, very real. As the divorce moved forward, Rosanna played a voice message for her brother, Oscar. It was from Jose. And in it, he talked about ending her. The danger wasn't just coming, it was already there. Okay, so let's jump back to the night she was killed, because the murder itself, that was only part 1 of the plan. What came next was a cold, calculated campaign of lies designed to fool everyone: the police, the media, the public. You know, investigators figured out pretty quickly that the phone call wasn't a coincidence. See, anyone who knew the house knew the cell service inside was terrible. That call from Jose at 10:50 p.m., it was a trap. It was specifically designed to get her to walk outside, right into the garden, where an assassin was already waiting for her in the dark. In the days after the murder, Jose and his mother Elsa didn't just lay low. No way. They went on a full-on media tour, appearing on national TV. And they weren't there to mourn. They started this vicious smear campaign, making up stories that Rosanna had all these lovers with criminal connections, saying the police should investigate them. It's a classic cynical move. If you can't prove your innocence, you destroy the victim's reputation. But all those lies, all that misdirection, it couldn't hold up forever. Rosanna's family refused to let it go. They kept fighting for the truth. And that led to a long, dramatic court battle where prosecutors slowly but surely put all the pieces of the puzzle together. And you know what? The judges saw right through it all. In their final verdict, they wrote this incredibly powerful line, saying the attack had all the signs of organized crime. This wasn't a crime of passion. This was a hit, a planned, contracted execution. And so, finally, in November of 2013, the verdict came. Both Jose Arce and his mother, Elsa Aguilar, were found guilty of being the masterminds behind Rosanna's murder. And the sentence for both of them? Life in prison. You'd think that's where the story ends, right? Justice is served.
But for Rosanna's two little boys, Geronimo and Huin, the verdict wasn't the end of their nightmare. Actually, it was just the start of another, almost unbelievable chapter of trauma that would go on for almost 10 more years. I mean, just try to wrap your head around this timeline. Right after their mom is murdered, the boys are put in the care of the two people who planned it all. Then, in 2015, Jose and Elsa get granted house arrest, so the kids are now living under the same roof as their mother's convicted killers. It was only after Jose died in 2018 and then Elsa in 2019 that the boys were finally able to go live with their Aunt Monica, who had been fighting for them this whole time. And we really have to understand the scale of that fight. For 9 years after the convictions, Rosanna's family, her parents, her brother Oscar, and especially her sister Monica, they battled the legal system to give those two boys a safe, loving home away from the people who took their mother from them. 9 years. This whole case just brings up such a painful reality. Even when you get a guilty verdict, the story is nowhere near over for the people who have to live with the aftermath. And it leaves us with this really difficult question to think about. When justice takes that long and the killers are your own family, how can the kids left behind ever truly begin to heal?